Hello, good morning. It's Lisa Copeland, and it is a beautiful morning in Austin, Texas. And today we're going to talk about reinventing the art of real estate. And I'm super excited to bring on a very, very good friend of mine who is probably one of the most fun humans on planet Earth to work with. She's one of the top designers in all of Central Texas. She's got an incredible eye. She's a house flipper. She is a real estate expert, and she's a designer. So anyways, I'm just going to cue up this video real quick, and in about 1 minute, I'm going to be back with my guest, Suzan Hurley. Suzan, welcome. Good morning.
Hello, it's so good to see you.
You know, this is a little early for me. I don't usually like to do the 10 a.m. ones, you know.
Yeah, I got to do 10 a.m. I got stuff to do.
I know you're busy girl. You are a busy girl. Well, you know, I asked you to come on the show because I want everybody to get to know you. You know, you're the exclusive designer for the agency and for all of us here in Central Texas. And you've been my personal designer for 3 years, 3 houses.
Yes. We have had a lot of fun and gotten in a lot of trouble with James Copeland together. So.
You got into trouble because he told me to take away the checkbook. The one that I gave you, right?
I was just so excited. I felt like, you know, if I didn't tell you the opportunities, I'm doing you a disservice.
Honey, I hear you. You would have done me a disservice. Absolutely. So for the 3 people on planet Earth that don't know you, tell everybody a little bit about you and about Suzan Hurley Designs.
Okay. So I loved the intro that you gave me about being like a fun human, because I think that is what this should be about. And I feel like people stress so much over making a beautiful space to live in, and it should be fun. The process should be fun. And I think a lot of times, you know, people overthink it, but we all have our own gifts, right? And so my gift truly, like, God gave it to me. That's how I know it's a gift. And I can just see things. And my favorite quote is by Elsie DeWolf, and it is, "I will make everything around me beautiful. That will be my life." And
you do.
That truly just brings me more joy.
Look at the chandelier, y'all, in her dining room. Because so what room are you sitting in? Are you sitting in your den or?
I am sitting in my dining room, which actually kind of doubles as my office. So, you know, this is my space, and you know, this is a perfect example. I came up with the concept 25 years ago, when my husband and I bought our first house, and we paid, I think, $94,000 for it right out of college. And my mom always lived in really big, you know, my parents lived in big, pretty houses, and they lived over at Barton Creek Country Club at the time. And so my mom always loved to decorate, and we would go to the parade of homes every year. And I was standing in one time, and it occurred to me that, you know, a room is a room. All rooms have a floor and walls and a ceiling. And just because I lived in a tract home in a little starter neighborhood, why couldn't my rooms look like those rooms? And it changed everything for me. So, you know, it just changed my way of thinking that you can make anything beautiful. And so this room is a perfect example, because it was a normal dining room with, you know, a sheetrock wall, and I added the brick, I added the wall sconces, I added a larger than life chandelier, because lighting is my thing. Sparkles make me happy. And, you know, it feels like something really, really special. And so Suzan Hurley Design was really born out of a desire to share with other people my gifts and the gift of beautiful surroundings, which I believe with all of my heart. We work better, we behave better, we're more productive when we are in spaces that feel like home to us. And there's a lot of inspiration in that.
Yeah, and what's interesting, so now so many people are homebound. And we were talking the other day, and like your business has just exploded because people are like, I'm stuck within these four walls. Like, this is where I'm going to be. And so with so many of us that, like, I think about, how I've been on the road for the last 4 years, just on a plane, off, here, there, everywhere, and my home was not as big of a deal. And this is funny. So like I'm upstairs, and Suzan knows my house very well because she did it. She did all the drapes and had them all custom made anyways.
Right.
And so the first day she saw me upstairs in this office, and those of you who know me, I got really downstairs. She texted me. She's like, yeah, I'm coming over to the house and we're going to remerch the office, which she hasn't done yet. But if you notice, it's very sparkly. And that was the Suzan Hurley influence 3 houses ago. Well, this house, my house on Ranch View, and then Tonkawa Springs. So my favorite Suzan story, the first year I worked with her, anytime I work with somebody and I like working with them, there's usually wine involved. And so one night we had all these painters in my house, and this was 3 houses ago. 1, 2, 3. Well, yeah. This is my 3rd house she'd done. So whatever, it was 2 houses ago. And Suzan and I are drinking wine, and the more wine we drank, she's like, oh my God, we've got to move this. We've got to do that. I need to go buy this. And then she lays in on the painters. She's like, hey, you guys, I want this paint, I want that painted, da, da, da. And she was just da, 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 da. And she's like, I'm the boss lady. And then the morning, Suzan gets to my house, and there was probably several bottles of wine drank. Suzan gets to my house, and the painters go, how are you feeling, boss lady? And she's like, not good.
Yeah. And I got to say, I have evolved in many ways since my design style and in my wine habits, and I am just as creative now without.
I think that you were very creative.
That
house was over the top. I mean, like, y'all, she redid everything, like everything. Like, it was a gut job, but it was an amazing house on an amazing piece of land that backed up to a creek. I mean, it was like a park. I lived in a park. I owned the park. And Suzan came in, she's like, oh, your kitchen space is too small. So she had these beautiful chairs, like everything was custom made. My furniture, my lighting, like Suzan, I still have those chairs. In fact, they're in my office. One's in my entryway at this house. The beautiful chairs that you made had made for my Nook kitchen, because Suzan's like, you should be sitting here and you should be overlooking this amazing backyard drinking coffee. Get rid of the table. And like just the things that you taught me about design and about making spaces beautiful, right? And so
and I'm so glad you brought that up, that you are still you're still using those chairs, because
they were expensive to keep using.
They were, but a big thing that I do in my business is it used to be called Reflections, and the reason that I used that name for a while was because my goal was for me to guide spaces that would look like they reflected your personality so much that it would feel like you had done it if you had the skills to know exactly what to do. And so in doing that, what I find is that I kind of try to stick with a little bit more on the neutral palettes and don't go for the trends. We try to kind of stay in a timeless space so that when you do things that reflect you, and they're things that the client really loves, and you look at that and you say, that has Lisa Copeland written all over it, you're going to love that for a really long time, because we didn't select something that just has Pinterest written all over it.
Exactly.
And that's different in what I do. I don't copycat. I actually really get to know the client. I get to know the space. I get to know the way that the house lives, and I can see things that aren't there in a really out of the box way, which is where staging comes in into it.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that. Yesterday, you sent me a text because I'm looking for a home for a client in your neighborhood, in fact. And she told me exactly what she wanted. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to call Suzan Hurley. She's the mayor, so she's going to know what's available. And so you sent some houses back over to me that, you know, maybe some off market stuff, because that's what I do. I'll go find it for you. And you sent me one and you said, and this is what you don't do to stage a house.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What is it that you, I mean, so Suzan and I are working on a very big project next week. I've got a very big listing coming on board. And I say big because it's almost 2.5 times the average price home, the median price home in our area. So, you know, it's a big project, but, you know, we want it perfect stand up. The house is beautiful, but we want to take it to beautiful on steroids. And so only Suzan Hurley will do to come in, and for her to come in and just completely just restage it and make it fantastic. But Suzan, what is it, you know, when you're staging a house, your National Association of Realtors says that if you'll spend 1% on staging, that, you know, and fixing it on this, that, and the other, that, you know, you'll bring, you know, another $18,000. Now, just so you know, I do not have 1% on this house coming up because it's a big one. But that being said, you know, talk to us about the importance of, and what do you see when any of us bring you into a house? What is like the first hack? Like you're like, oh yeah.
Typically, it's too much stuff. And you know, staging a house is very different than decorating a house that someone's going to live in. So one of the big mistakes in when realtors have photographs taken of houses as is that they are typically incredibly taste specific. And human nature is an aversion to things we don't like, right? So whether it's colors, whether it's too much furniture, whether it's too many knickknacks, we will subconsciously turn off things and full concepts if there's a piece of it that aesthetically is not pleasing to us. And so there's so much psychology in real estate staging. And, you know, in those photos, when I said this is an example of what not to do, first impressions are everything, right? I mean, the best business coaches talk about what is the first impression in how you stand, in how you shake hands, in how you make eye contact, in which side your name tag is on. Like all of those are like 101, right? In like first impressions coaching. And so in homes, those pictures hit the MLS. That is the very first impression. And I have realtors call me all the time and they say, I need this house staged. It's not selling. And, you know, unfortunately, people can't unsee things. And so those photographs are key, and people go back to them after they look at a house. So, you know,
on my website, you know, this house has been viewed 99 times by Susie Lunch Bucket. Like,
yes. Okay. And so back to your question, to answer that really specifically, the things that stand out when I walk into a house typically are too much stuff.
Define stuff for us. Define stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Too much furniture, too many photos, too much artwork on walls, too many things on the kitchen counter, too many. It's hard for me to ever say people have too many pillows, but sometimes that is.
Say, Suzan Hurley, I've got 4 million on my bed because of you.
Sometimes that's the case. You know, too many rugs is huge. So, you know, the rule to staging is simplify, simplify, simplify. But basically, when I go into a house to stage it, I tell the client every time, you know, this has nothing to do with judgment over your decorating taste. Well, what our goal is to take away any buyer objections. So people are out looking at houses all the time. And I would say most of your audience has done that, where they've gone out and they've looked at houses and they've bought a house. And you see so much clutter all day long, and houses smell weird, which is a huge, huge issue.
Pets. Oh, I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Cooking odors. are a big deal. What our goal is to have people walk into your house, and after a day of trying to get past all that and trying to see themselves through someone else's full-blown life, is to be able to have an experience that is like when you walk in a model. The reason people always love model homes is because they keep them simple enough. They depersonalize them just enough that they still feel like home, but anybody can picture themselves there. So, the fact that you have a fireplace on one wall and TV in a weird spot catty cornered next to it, and you put your furniture in there so that it all works perfectly for you to be able to comfortably watch TV, you've confused the mind of a buyer because you've got too many focal points in one room. So we pick a focal point. Once they get in there, they can put their furniture however they want to. But our goal is you don't ever want anything that stops people's eye. It needs to be a cohesive flow that is simple and allows people to just keep moving from one space to the other, because as soon as your eye is stopped on something that's not working, your brain sort of starts to go, this doesn't feel right. Mm-hmm. We are removing objections. So window treatments, people spend,
Suzan, easy.
you spend a lot of money on window treatments. Okay.
Yeah, like salary of a teacher. Girl.
Right. And we were very careful. I was very careful in your window treatments to really keep the styling of them simple and do more panel treatments that aren't covering your windows. They are very,
but I have like 20 foot or 25 ceilings in my room, so that helps.
Exactly.
You're beautiful.
Well, your window treatments are highlighting the height of your rooms. And when window treatments are done right, that's what they're supposed to do. But unfortunately, a lot of homes still have old school window treatments.
Okay, so define that for who's watching this.
Yeah. So
what is old school versus new school?
Yes. So new school is we are framing out a window. All we're trying to do is put a pretty frame around what the view is or what the height of the room is, or a beautiful window in and of itself. The old school way of doing it was you wanted all the focus to be on your expensive custom drapery, not on the room as a whole. So swoopy. I
love you. Swoopy. The swags. Weren't they called swags at one time? I think I had those in my house like 3 or 4 houses ago, because I think I threw away all my swags.
Yeah, and they cut the swags covered, a quarter of the window. Right. And people don't like that anymore because, everything in the world is trying to get simplified right now. And for me, it's more complicated because technology is a challenge for me because I'm a full-blown creative. So, but it's everything is getting simplified, pare it down. And the same rule of thumb happens in houses. So just because you have custom window treatments does not mean that you leave them up when you show your house. If they are not really, up-to-date window treatments, which up-to-date window treatments means
no matter how much you spend on them, they need to come down.
Exactly. It means simple panels. And in a what not to do in the house that we talked about yesterday, it was a $700,000 house, and it had ready-made curtains in it, not really even draperies. It had curtains, and they didn't go all the way to the floor. And they had these.
I mean, it was bad.
They looked inexpensive, and in a $700,000 house, that house would have been better off with no window treatments.
Right.
In case the clean windows. So a lot of times, and there's nothing wrong with those. The people who live there probably really like them, and that's fine. That's their house. But we are trying to appeal to the masses. So what we want to do is we want to stage and style the house so that after people have looked around all day long and all they can remember about that one house is that's the house that smelled like
dog. cat,
dog, or whatever the food was last night, or that's the house that had that. So paint, neutralizing your paint right now. That's the house that had that red living room. That's the house that had the rugs that we kept tripping on all over the place. And when they get to the house that is beautifully styled, that's the house that had that gorgeous vaulted ceiling.
right?
Like we want the dinner conversation after the long day of looking to go back, and that's the house that we didn't have any objections to, that we could see ourselves in.
Yeah.
So, that's the key. It's furniture placement typically is very out of the box and different. It's removing buyer objections. And that's what I'm an expert at is being able to go in and remove the buyer objections. And I make a punch list literally from the front yard to the backyard. It's a really simple process. I do it in my notes on my phone. I don't need the client there with me.
And it's almost probably better because what I find, I've been on a few listing appointments in the last couple of days, and the sellers want to go through the house with me and explain stuff. And I'm like, I want you to show me your house, but then I want to walk your house and make notes. Yes. And then once we list it, I'm going to bring Suzan in, and Susan's going to go even further on it and make notes, because what we don't want is people selling us their house all the way through. We're already sold, or we wouldn't be there. We know what to do to sell it.
Exactly.
It's very personal, and I know that.
It is.
It is. And me about my office, you're like, And I'm like, I love the Berkeley office, and that's all your fault. You're like, I'm going to come merch it. I'm going to go redo this. She hasn't done it, but I still like it. I don't care.
And you know what? I look at your office and I'm like, okay, that's great, but all those things that are very personal need to be in one space. And what we need to do to actually really, sorry, I'm getting personal with you in front of your whole audience, and it's wonderful, but the goal is, and I tell people all the time, as we are getting into a world that we're doing Zoom meetings and, and live shows like this, the background, again, simplify, appeal to the masses, because what we want is to focus on you, not to be like, I wonder who those pictures are in the background, and I wonder where she got that. And that's not the goal. So
I'm sitting here looking at those planter shutters, plantation, or are they planter or plantation shutters, and you're gorgeous. And I'm thinking, I love that chandelier. But I mean, I've got massive chandeliers in my house that are like that. So, but I'm just as sparkly, and that's all your fault, Suzan Hurley.
Right.
So my partner and the head of our group, Tarek El Musso, his newest show is Flipping 101, which I love it. I like it better than Flip or Flop, honestly. And I was watching it the other night with Eli in bed, and and we're going to talk about you being a flipper here in a second. But so the premise of the show with Tarek is that the people go. The investors go and they buy the property ahead of Tarek, right? And then they bring Tarek in, and Tarek he goes in and tells them how to maximize, how to spend this much money to make this much money. But usually the first mistake that people have already made is they paid too much for the house. And Tarek's always like, And I know it's television because I've done it. And so I know that there's always a premise and storyline. But what's interesting is, and this is an overlying thread that I see in every show, and I'm going to talk to you about that, is that people take it personally, especially women that are flippers. They're like, okay, I'm going to use this and that and that and that. I'm going to make it fabulous. And Tarek's always reeling them back and going, look, that would be great if it was your house.
Yes.
But number one, what you're doing is too expensive. Number two, you've got to make it where mainstream people are going to come in and like it. To your point of, there is no objection, because this one lady wanted to put this insane Italian tile on the fireplace, which I loved. I would have done it in a hot minute. And Tarek just blew it out of the water. He's like, no. I like it for you. But 90% of the buyers that come in here, the first thing they're going to say is, God, what were they thinking on that fireplace?
Exactly.
So talk to us about your flipping, your latest flip. You've got a huge projects going out in Fredericksburg. Is your personal flip, and how have you separated business? Although I don't think you're flipping it, I think you're keeping it.
I'm not. It's actually an Airbnb.
Okay, so talk to us about that.
Which is a little bit different. So basically what I'm doing in that is it's so funny though, because it's all the same thing. You have to know your audience, and you have to really like in all business, you have to define what is the goal of this specific project. So in home styling and staging for real estate, the goal is appeal to the masses, remove objections, create an emotional pull. So when that person is in that house, they feel something.
Yep.
And that is the key. I mean, you turn the lights on, you have dimmers on things, you have a great scented candle burning, you have music playing. When people come to my personal home, they say actually an emotional experience. That's what we create in staged houses as well. And that will sell a house. I mean, I have the houses that I've staged sell really, really quickly, and my personal homes sell really quickly. And it's possible that when they sell for all that in there and say, what did I don't even know if I really like this, but they felt something. And so, in a flip, I think it's the same premise. In my Airbnb, I am trying to create an experience. I know my market, and my market, the house is in Fredericksburg. It's the wine country. There's a lot of weddings. It's a massive destination for bachelorette parties. It's going to sleep 8 to 10 people. So it is basically what I'm creating is it's a 100-year-old farmhouse in the historic district, about a block and a half off of Main Street. And so I'm not doing a Pinterest perfect farmhouse, because I think that, the modern farmhouse feel is everywhere. It's not a unique experience, although it's beautiful and it would sell, it would be fine. But I'm creating an experience that is kind of a one of a kind. So it has treasures. It feels like a place, when you go into a hotel suite and it has like this, everybody loves the white bedding and the luxury, and that's just a great environment to be in. But you'll go into a boutique hotel, like Hotel Zaza has their suites.
Yes, I love Hotel Zaza.
You would ever have in your own house, but you're like, oh, how fun to get to stay in something like this.
Right.
And so that's kind of where I'm going with the property that we're doing. But again, keeping the color palette very neutral. It's really about creating an emotional experience, and it's beautiful surroundings all around you. In an Airbnb, I'm trying to create kind of a fantasy world of something that you go there and you're like, I've never stayed in anything that feels like that. And so, true to the character of the town and the vintage vibe, and nostalgia is really important to me in that. Luxury appointments of, the monogrammed bathrobes and the beds that are incredibly comfortable, and, luxury appointments of every single thing you can think of. The tagline on my website is "the difference is in the details always." And that applies in whether you're flipping, whether you're doing an Airbnb, whether you are styling and staging a house for sale, or whether you're decorating a home for someone to live in. It's in those details that say there's something really special here, and I feel something special when I'm in this space. That's what it's all about. If a home doesn't create an emotion, I haven't done my job.
Okay, so let me ask you this. I know people, if you all have any questions, throw them up here for Susan.
Yeah.
But what is somebody, so like, I think of my house, it's very specific. It's very over the top. It's, I've got the Ralph Lauren metallic paint and the wallpaper, it's really over the top in every room. It's very Susan.
Right.
And so if we go to sell this thing, then what? I mean, like, do I just do what I do and leave it like it is? Or do I take it to, do you go and whitewash the walls of my $10,000 paint job? Like, how do you do that?
It honestly, it depends. I haven't been in your house in a couple of years. And so, I've slept several times between that. And so it's hard for me to remember specifically.
But it's like, the gold paints and then the bronze paints with it. It's very, very testing, right? It's very,
it's very likely that just as I would have to do to my house, and I just remodeled my house a few years ago, so it's pretty up to date. But for example, my bedroom, I still have the cornice boxes that I put in there 13 years ago. I still love them, but they're brown velvet and they have jeweled. I think we actually did one of those same window treatments in your house.
We did.
In the middle and a fabric pull through and full trim. And I would take those down if I was going to sell my house, and I would put a much simpler window panel treatment because they are way too taste specific.
Okay.
And they would cause someone to say, I like this house, but that's just not my style. And
I have a chandelier ceiling fan in my bedroom.
Yeah.
I would honestly take that with me probably. So that's okay.
I would take that with you. Yeah. So we would look at your house and we would look at it and say, you know, some houses are so gorgeous and so beautifully done that you trust that, that there will be buyers at that price point who truly can appreciate that. And so a lot of that we will leave, and you will find the right buyer for that house who truly sees the value. But if it is things that are dated, if the gold is too metallic and it is just straight up out of style, if the wallpaper might have been $400 a roll, but if it's dated and it's too taste specific, I'm going to recommend we need to take that out. You know, that you can take with you, like a chandelier ceiling fan. It's likely that we would say, let's replace it with something a lot more neutral. Let's take 40% of the pillows off of your bed and simplify it so that a man doesn't walk in here and go, the house was just dripping. It made me feel smothered. So, you know, and that's a perfect example. Mm-hmm. Of your house. I love my house, but if I was going to stage our houses for sale, I would pare them down and I would simplify them. And I would say, don't have your feelings hurt. It's beautiful. It's Lisa Copeland, but it is not
anyone else.
So yeah, I mean, and sometimes it's painful, like to paint over the $10,000 paint, but the $10,000 paint was for you. And so, you know, it just depends. I mean, it depends on, you know, it's just like the cornice box example I gave in my bedroom.
Which you have sold me. I don't know. They're in my bedroom. They're in, and they're up in my media room and in my
right. And we love them. And they're still in style. Nobody ever looks at my bedroom. They say, oh my gosh, this is gorgeous. I can't imagine like getting to live in this.
Yeah, your house is over the top. It's more over the top than mine is. Mine's bumpy.
It's decorated for me. Yeah. And so if I was going to sell it, there are things I would simplify like that.
Well, you and I've got a fun project.
No, they can't have their feelings hurt.
Right.
Are staging their house to sell.
I'm just going to ask for a refund when it happens. That's all.
You have enjoyed that way too much for what's happening.
Like, hey, Susie, I need a credit for all these drapes to the new one. Okay, so kind of in wrapping up, what is the big style today? You always see it's Chip and Joanne and the farmhouse look and da 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 da. And you know, what is it? What's the hot ticket today? You know, it used to be Tuscan. It used to be the big hemispheres, like that stuff.
Right. You know, it's interesting because it is rapidly changing. And typically what people are doing is always like a few years actually, it already was here and it's on its way out by the time the masses get to it. And for example, gray paint everywhere. Gray is on its way out. And when it goes, it's going to be like the peach and teal from the 80s. Like nobody's going to want that gray anymore. And I'm already starting to see it. Beige is making a comeback. We always come back to where we've been, but
good.
You know, the people are starting to tire a little bit of the ultra modern, but clean lines are definitely more in style. Simplified spaces, so
like minimalistic. Like minimalistic.
Yeah, I would say that it doesn't have to be minimalistic. I feel like that is very specific to a certain personality. And I think that when you style a home for someone to live in, as long as you keep a neutral color palette, you can do things that that person loves and is drawn to, and it is going to feel timeless because it's going to reflect their personality. Color palette is huge. If you can kind of keep it in a neutral color palette, because the reds and the red and chocolate brown combination is definitely the Tuscan 10 years ago.
Stop it.
Things. I'm just trying to get myself a job to come in and make for you. That's all.
Well, who else would I ever have come to my house besides you? Nobody.
Well, you know that I moved into my house 12 years ago, and I had red walls, animal print sofas, the heavy Tuscan European feel. My house still has a very European feel, but it is a but I will say that jewel tones are coming back. Ralph Lauren feeling is coming really strong. Burberry plaid fabric is one of the hot sellers right now. To do like a man's office. But I would just say that when a house is being decorated, reflecting the person who lives there and the pieces that they love, and also it's a balance, and it's a very difficult thing for me to explain how to do it for someone, which is why Pinterest is so popular, because people straight up copycat and everybody's house looks just like everybody else's because it's like a formula and they just do it. What I do is more like a painting. It's very hard for me to even tell you every single piece that's going to be in that house, because I get inspired and it gets layered out as we go. And my projects, they all have a touch of Suzan on them, but whether they're a contemporary style or whether they are really European or whether they're really glam over the top or, minimalist or anywhere in between, they evoke the personality of the person. And when I say minimalist, I actually wouldn't be the designer for minimalist. I was
going to say that's probably not your jam.
No, I would refer you to somebody else if that's really what you wanted, because what I love is creating personality, and a minimalist home typically doesn't really have that. It's just a very, you can add a little bit with some bright colors, some things like that. But I think that it's important in all business that we stay in our lane. And, I can do different things. I'm not a one-trick pony, but I also need to be enthusiastic and excited about the projects that I embark on when I'm doing design for someone to live in.
So you're a designer. You are truly, in the sense of the word, a designer.
Well, and technically in Texas, you have to be AISD and no construction to call yourself a designer. So I would be considered a decorator or a stylist. And I say that for my designer friends who would get offended if I call myself a designer. But I am a very artistic, creative, visionary when it comes to homes. And I see how to make spaces. My backyard is an example. It was the nosebleed tiny backyard that the realtor said, I just want you to know, if you buy this house, it'll be very difficult to sell because it doesn't really have a backyard. I found a way to put
a swimming pool
on my side yard, a bar in the back with a seating area, a fireplace on the patio. It has little magic moments everywhere. And people say now your house will sell just because of the backyard. Right. So, I can't explain to people how to do what I do, because I don't even know how I do what I do, which is why I know it's a gift that God's given me, because it just comes out.
Well, so wrapping this up, next week, it probably won't be next week because we're actually having this house painted, but probably the next week, I've got a camera crew coming over, and Suzan and I are going to go into this listing, and Suzan's going to do her thing, right? This home is beautiful. It's gorgeous. But Suzan's going to stage it to sell. And so, we're going to film Suzan doing a couple of the rooms, so that you guys and gals can see give you some ideas. Because people are going to watch this from all over the world, right? They're not sitting here in Texas. But if you're in Central Texas, then of course, Susan's part of our what we do at the agency is we bring in the Suzan Hurleys. If your house is $200,000 or $2 million, it doesn't matter. We still remove all buyer objections and make it where it's going to sell fast and for all of the money, right?
Yeah, our goal is bidding wars.
Yes. Oh, we should maybe that's what we should talk to Tarek about. Anyway, yeah. So anyways, everybody, thank you so much for jumping on. I've put Susan's website along the bottom, and it's Suzan Hurley, and it's Susan with a Z. So notice that is not a typo. Susan with a Z, SuzanHurley.com. The website is so beautiful. It's got so much of her work on it. And the rooms that she's done. And she does Christmas trees that are just over the she does holiday.
We're about to go into Christmas season, and I do full-blown Christmas design for people's houses, which is a whole other conversation.
That's a whole nother conversation. So I'm going to have Susan back in a couple of weeks, but we're going to be live at this home that is going on the market, and the film crew is actually going to film Susan doing what she does, and so you're going to see the before, which was great, an amazing, beautiful home that a family of 4, 5, 6 have lived in. To making it where it is ready for the next family to move into it, and removing any objections. So it's going to be fun. And like I said, Susan is probably the most fun person I've ever worked with when it comes to working on homes and designing homes. So Susan, I love you.
I love people. So we make I make relationships with them. And one more little plug I want to give is that my Facebook business page is Suzan Hurley Design. And there are videos on there of the befores and the nows of the Fredericksburg house and the progress. And those are really fun. So hop on there and you can see some live videos. And there's if you go to my video section, there are several videos of design processes in befores and durings and afters of renovations, remodels, things like that. So.
Yeah, it's really amazing what you can do with just a room, a space, a house, a concept. And like I said, I mean, you've been my decorator. I'll say stylist. You're much more than a decorator, but just really the visionary for my homes, and have really helped bring out what I want. And can I get an appointment scheduled with you today? Okay. But basically, you always took my vision and then you expanded on it. Because I think so many times I didn't know exactly what I wanted, but you helped pull it out of me, and then you showed me some concepts. I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I want.
That's it. Because you know what? The greatest compliment that I can have is that people walk into your home and go, Lisa, this house is so Lisa Copeland.
Yep. And they do.
That's what we want.
Yeah, that's it. All right, my dear. Like I said, guys and gals, it'll probably be the week after next because we are having that house painted. But once that happens, we're gonna film Susan doing what she does.
Excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. All right, everybody. I hope you have a fantastic day. My website is sellingcentraltexas.com. And
hey, Lisa, and congratulations on your latest endeavor. Everything you touch turns to gold. I'm honored to work with you, but you are going to rock it, and you're going to be amazing.
Thank you, my dear friend. I appreciate that. It's already, we're so darn busy right now. It's unbelievable.
Of course you are.
Of course I am. That's what I do.
That's surprising.
Yeah. So anyways, all right, everybody. Thank you very much, Susan. I will see you again very soon because we have projects we're working on. All right.
Okay.
Everybody.
Bye.